This episode of Curiosity's Sake is going to be the Easter special, and it's going to be a rather special Easter special as I'm going to be doing a movie and film bundle of The Pilgrim's Progress from this world to that which is to come, delivered under the similitude of a dream wherein discovered the manner of his letting out, his dangerous journey, and fate arrival at the defied country. What kind of title is that? Well, its more commonly known title is The Pilgrim's Progress, or The Pilgrim's Progress from this world to that which is to come. I guess old books, like old movies, just need to put half of their word count in the title. The Pilgrim's Progress is brought to us by Scott Cawthon, who you might know as the guy who made the Five Nights at Freddy's video games. He actually made this about a decade earlier, and actually wanted to make it into both a movie and a video game adaptation. This story has had around 27 adaptations. Oh, wait, no, 26, as Peter's Progress wasn't anything to do with the Pilgrim's Progress, and therefore it doesn't count. The story is a religious allegory book written in the late 1670s and is more or less a representative tale of the journey that a Christian takes over the course of their life. It's actually quite an influential book, bringing to life some of the places described in the Bible and later influencing future stories with concepts like an early depiction of Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies. And apparently this video is going to come out around the same time as a new animated adaptation. What a coinkydink! But anyway, I'll be focusing on this mid-2000s adaptation by Scott Cawthon, which will prove hopefully entertaining and fun regardless. So I had to do a bit of thinking as to whether or not I wanted to do the video game or the movie first, and after some thought I realised that it would be easier to talk about the movie first so that you're familiar with the story before I go on to talk about the video game. So, let's watch The Pilgrim's Progress.
My name is Christian.
Hi, Christian. So the movie begins showing off its most impressive visuals, with Christian crossing over the River of Death at the end of the movie. Now you might ask, what significance does this scene have that makes it important to show it before the start of the movie? None. Already you can kind of tell that this isn't exactly Pixar levels of 3D animation. But it was made by a small team on a tiny ass budget, and unlike Joshua and the Promised Land, there aren't actually that many mistakes in this movie. In fact, I haven't found any thus far. While this isn't the best looking film, it's clear to me that they did the best with what they could, and in the end, isn't that all that matters? No, it's not. Yeah, well, fuck you. Anyway, Christian does a smart and accidentally sinks himself into the River of Death and drowns. Oh, that was a brief movie. I give this short movie the low score of an 8 out of 10. Oh, I'm just being an ass. I wouldn't deprive you of this award-winning acting right here.
No, it's too deep. I've been abandoned. My sin was too great.
You have been made whole. Look there, he waits for you. He made a promise to you, Christian.
Yes, I see him again. I see the other side. I see it.
Yeah, it's quite clear that they just used whoever was nearby, regardless as to whether or not they should be doing voice work. But hey, they try, and at least it's not Dingo Pictures level bad where they're doing flubs. Apparently the only two actors in this are Scott and a relative of his. I'm not sure who she is, but she voices the female characters. And so, Christian resigns himself to death and drowns, and everything in this movie is his dying last thoughts. Actually, no, he was just having the quickest crisis of faith the world has ever seen, and after a few words, they talk him out of it. And then he dies. You see, there might have been a point to this if we didn't see God's hand there, but unfortunately we now know that he survives the River of Death. Or doesn't die and go to hell, his soul is saved, or whatever surviving the River of Death means. So, it's pointless. Seriously, if they cut it off as he went under the water, we would have at least had the suspense of, will he make it? But at this point, we just need to see a whole movie to find out what happens after he makes it. This isn't how you do an opening thing. So the movie goes on to show us some more shit that we're going to see later in the movie, so we can credit the 2 people who worked on this thing and admire the artwork. Or the filters, whatever. The movie begins with Christian explaining his reason for trying to drown himself in the River of Death. Oh, and he also tells us that he's a resident of the City of Destruction. What, does Mehrunes Dagon live there or something? You'd think that the name alone would be a warning sign. I mean, it's called the City of Destruction, right? Or did they just name it that at the start, like people do when they start playing SimCity and know that the town's gonna end up fucked in the end? Christian has read his Bible and has become aware of what an ass he is, and how many sins he has committed. He carries his sins on his back as a literal burden weighed down by them. And here we encounter 3 of my problems with this story. The story is meant to be allegory. Hell, it comes up as an example of allegory when you look up the word's definition online, and yet the way the allegory is presented is so blunt. Everything is just a dictionary definition in this universe. Like, the main character's name is Christian, and he carries a bundle that has all his sins, and it's his burden, and he lives in a doomed city. It's meant to be allegory, but I feel like the allegory is missing the most important part about allegory, which is the interpretation. A good allegory story, like Animal Farm, doesn't just call all the pigs Communist A and Communist B. No, because it wants you to actually think. A good allegory like Animal Farm could apply to more situations than it does originally. Initially it was about the Russian Revolution, but we could apply it to any revolution. The idea that once we replace one evil and replace it with something else, that could be an equally bad or even worse evil. But the Pilgrim's Progress is literally one story. It's a basic hero's journey story that can have no other meaning because all the characters are just dictionary definitions.
I'd tried desperately to convince my wife of the destruction that was coming, but she enjoyed the world too much and didn't want to face the possibility of losing it. She called me a fool and thought of it no more.
Oh, so you mean your wife didn't believe you when you started wearing a big-ass bag on your back like a bad Outward player and started ranting about the end of the world? What a shock. It's quite interesting that they omit Christian's baby from the book, because in the book he actually abandons his wife and his child, whereas in the movie it's just his wife. Yeah, okay, his journey is real and it does amount to something real, but the doubt of his neighbours, wife, and everybody else around him is pretty legitimate, considering that he just woke up one morning, started ranting about sin, and then tries to leave the city to go on some mad pilgrimage. I mean, he does this overnight. This is gonna look more like mental illness than an epiphany to most people. Even people who know this is real are not going to buy into it immediately because he sounds like a raving madman. In fact, these dictionary definitions are depicted as the bad guys for going after him and trying to deter him from his quest. But he can't be convinced, so one of them goes home. The other stays with him for a bit, but then it gets too dangerous, so he clears off as well. So if your neighbour starts ranting about the end of the world and tries to abandon his wife and kid to just run off into the wilderness to find heaven, surely you're not a bad person for being a bit concerned. If you give a remote shit about them, which, given how close, tight-knit this community is, I imagine that they would. They're like one big family, like a village. Then they're not really bad people for trying to stop him from running off and getting himself killed. Especially when it's at the expense of his wife and kid. But no, they're the villains. So then Christian meets... Whoa, fuck! Oh good, a teleporting dwarf appears before him. That's not fucking terrifying at all.
Excuse me, but what troubles you so much, young man?
Well, you see, I've been reading this good book, and I know that I'm doomed to die for the sins that I carry, and I'm afraid that when I die, My burden will be so heavy that it will sink me lower than the grave.
And so you would like to escape from this city, and also free yourself from that burden?
Yes, but I can't see how that's possible. I am a wretched person. How can sin be undone? What hope is there for me?
Well, do you see that light shining over the field? Go towards that light, and you will see a small gate. When you get there, knock, and you will be told what to do.
So Christian sets off running, only to be stopped by these two jackasses. As I said before, these two are the subtly named Obstinate and Pliable, and they're two very helpful people who will be with him to the end. All the way through this, my only thought is, if I was kind wise man, could I trick people into, like, giving me their money or something?
Oh, hello there, young boy. My name is Kind Wise Man, and I've come to protect your wallet.
Wow! My name's Gullible Idiot, and I believe you a lot! Here, take my wallet!
Oh, well, actually, my real name is Lying Sack of Shit, so I'm just going to take this and be on my way.
Oh. Well. Maybe he'll create jobs with that money. However, Christian is not dissuaded by them and brings Pliable along for the journey as his starting companion. One thing that I find kind of funny here is that this story actually encourages people to abandon their friends and family. Earthly possessions I get, but why do Christians hate you loving your friends and family so much and actually sticking by them?
And leave our friends and comforts behind? What could you possibly be searching for that would be worth leaving the whole world behind you? All of this is worthless compared with just a small piece of what I hope to enjoy. All of this is worthless compared with just a small piece of what I hope to enjoy.
My son is 15 years old and he's worth nothing.
Wow, so your wife, friends and family, as well as your children, are worthless. I'm sorry, these are supposed to be the good guys? I am aware that a lot of my problems with this are the actual source material and not this adaptation. Despite how faithful this adaptation is, it's only saying what's on the page, and I can't really fault it for that. Though Scotty Boy did think that this was worth adapting into an animated movie, so you're damn right I'm gonna judge the hell out of what these characters are saying.
There's no suffering, no cruelty, none of the horrible things of this world. We will meet God and live in a place that He has prepared for us.
Why would God want us to live with Him? Are you sure we will be welcome?
We are His creation, His children. He wants nothing more than for us to seek Him.
Won't He know about the bad things I've done?
I've done evil things as well, but God must have a way to cleanse me, or there wouldn't be such a desire in my heart to find Him.
Well, you think that your children are worthless, Christian, so I won't put too much bank on that.
It is written by God, and God cannot lie.
Well, God can't lie, apart from that time he told Abraham he'd be killing his son Isaac. Or can God only lie when he's playing hilarious pranks where he tricks parents into thinking they gotta kill their kids?
I hope we will be there soon.
Whoa!
Is this your promised land?
I don't see any creepy untextured lines about. What the fuck, Christian Clemens? What kind of promised land is this? Seriously? He thought they would have found the promised land a few feet over yonder from where they started? I know that he doesn't exactly know where it is, but surely he doesn't think it's within a day's walking distance of the town, or else you'd be able to see it from the city. Or the hills. Here's a fun bit of speculation for you. Did you know that John Bunyan lived in Bedford, England, and that the journey was actually the journey from Bedford to London? So, the swamp of despair that they are currently stuck in is actually a nice little English village called, hold on a second, let me just check on my computer. Suetby. It looks a lot nicer in real life.
If this is what happens at the very start of our journey, who knows what dangers we will face later?
Oh yeah, because we all know that the best part of a journey is the start, and you never run into problems at the start of the journey. It's usually about halfway through. Idiot.
I'm going home.
Oh, let's face it, pilgrimages are ruined. Oh well, Christian is forced to go on without Pliable's help, and he's stuck in a gross-looking boggy swamp, jankily tripping over as he goes. He is then saved by Helpful, but it's actually lying sack of shit in disguise. I'm just kidding. But this is Helpful, here to save the day with his southern state accent, even though he lives in Bedford, England. So after telling him that the swamp sucks because he sucks, because clever allegory, Christian moves on to the city of morality.
Hey, whoa there. Where are you going with that large burden on your back?
I'm going to the small gate. Evangelist told me how to get there.
Evangelist? Ha! I've heard this story 1,000 times. If you want to free yourself from that burden, there's a much easier way.
There is?
Of course. My name is Mr. Worldly Wise Man.
Okay, that's his name. I feel really bad for him when he has to write checks. So he goes on to say that the way that you really get into heaven is by being a good person and following Moses' 10 commandments, and be a moral person. But true Christians aren't moral. What a stupid notion. A character called Moses actually did appear in this story, funnily enough, and is possibly this guy in the animation, and is seen as an antagonist alongside Adam the First, who is apparently the first Adam ever made. Well, considering that they run with a guy called Lord Hategood, I wouldn't really be surprised if that was the case. In the book, Worldly Wise Man actually tricked pilgrims into following the laws of man rather than the laws of God. Rather than it being about morality, it was more about making him surrender to man's authority rather than God's until he rejected Jesus and God entirely. I honestly don't think that's explained very well in this adaptation. He's more or less a trickster who acts as if he's found a loophole into heaven, rather than the embodiment of the flaw of man's law. Yeah, well, either way I think it's stupid, but at least I finally understand why Christians often ask, if you don't believe in a god, then how come you haven't gone on a killing, raping spree? Because hellfire is literally the only thing stopping these people from doing it, apparently. Seriously, that's the message that this movie gives me. Not to mention that in Romans 13, 1-2, it says, "Obey the government, for God is the one who put it there. There is no government anywhere that God has not placed in power, so those who refuse to obey the law of the land are refusing to obey God, and punishment will follow." So, yeah, you kind of overlooked that one, didn't you, Mr. Bunyan?
Sure you have heard of the law of Moses. You know, the 10 Commandments. We'll go right up this hill to that little town you see up there. That is the town of morality. Go there and you can learn to become a good person. Become a good person and you will earn your reward.
Your reward of speaking normally. So Christian walks up the approach and is immediately ambushed by this creepy dwarf motherfucker who appears out of nowhere and makes him jump like it would anyone. The fuck? Anyway, Evangelist explains that an evil heart can do no good, and therefore trying to be good is pointless. So, Hitler couldn't save a family from a burning building then? I mean, he could in theory do that, and it would be a good deed, so an evil heart can do good. What the fuck are you saying, you crazy ass dwarf? Oh wait, no, I forgot. The family and friends in that building are worthless. Hitler would only be a good person if he marched past them and went on his bullshit journey of madness because fuckity fuck. Honestly, the further into this story we get, the worse I feel for people who actually see the world this way. Well, Christian then fucks off and leaves the town of morality behind, eventually finding this inviting looking castle on the horizon. This is Beelzebub's castle, which is actually a whole level in the game. But in the movie it's just briefly glossed over. I guess in this universe, Beelzebub wasn't paying much attention until it was too late and only just suddenly realised, oh shit, I should be firing arrows at this little prick.
Knock, and it shall be opened unto you.
Hello, my name is Goodwill, and you are?
I am just a sinner from the city of destruction. I am trying to flee from the wrath that is coming and reach the celestial city, the city of God. I am told that it is through this narrow gate. Will you please let me through?
With all my heart.
Whoa! Why did you pull me?
I was going to eat you, but then decided not to. Wait, are you pliable? You look just like him. No, I killed him, ate him, and wore his face. Oh. Goodo?
My heart.
Whoa! Why did you pull me?
That is the castle of Beelzebub on that hill. He shoots arrows of fire at all that approach this gate, hoping that they will die before they reach it. Ah yes, here they come now.
We must run.
Nonsense, we are perfectly safe. We are on the other side of the gate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant I'm perfectly safe.
This is the path you must now follow. It is as straight as a ruler.
Road straight as my dick.
There are many other paths that branch away from it, paths that are very wide. Stay true to this straight, narrow path to the place of deliverance. Then you can finally be free of that burden once and for all.
So Christian camps in the wilderness and... Oh no, a punga of a lobster flew over the moon. Scary.
Where is that Christian? He should be here by now. I hope he didn't get sidetracked.
Oh, hello. Who the fuck are you and what do you have to do with anything? I'm just being an ass. This is the interpreter. He tells Christian how to go about his insane journey.
I am the interpreter. I keep it a bit dark in here. That's so you can pay attention to the things that you are supposed to pay attention to.
Like your broken nose. Oh.
Here we go. I've put together a little presentation for you. You know, to make things easier. Did you want popcorn?
No, thank you.
Suit yourself. Roll the film.
So let me get this straight. They have popcorn and film projectors in this universe, but they still wear sackcloth. I guess this is the universe after the Fallout universe, where technology only advanced in areas that it felt like advancing, and stupidity ran rampant throughout the world.
Do you know who this is?
Christ?
That's right. Jesus Christ, the Son of God. He is the only person that God ever gave authority to be our guide in all difficult places. Remember this well, for others have made false claims to speak for God, but their ways always lead to death.
Not like our way that leads to the fucking river of death.
A man in a very dusty room. It looks like he is going to try to sweep it. Oh my, look at that dust fly. He will never clean it up like that. But wait a second. Let's see what happens when some water is sprinkled on the floor. Oh, look at that. The dust is clean.
If you throw water on the floor, then how are the walls clean? This is just your typical BS propaganda. And then we move on to the patience and greed part, which is also flawed, as the idea is that greed gets all the good stuff in this life and patience gets her stuff in the hereafter. Because stuff we get immediately is never as good as stuff we get after years of waiting. That's why winning the lottery sucks. Actually, no, that's a better analogy, because lottery winners tend not to appreciate the value of money and will likely blow it all on stupid shit and end up in debt, whereas a person who saved for it won't. Of course, it's a rather broad thing, as a sensible man with a lot of money is not going to be as stupid with said money as someone who's stupid, regardless of how they get it. What if the thing that you want is only going to exist in this life? Like, what if you want a specific woman really badly, who probably might not get to heaven, and you would give up pretty much everything to be with her? Like, that's not a viable option to these people. Some things are only available for a short amount of time, and you may regret it for eternity if you don't take them up. But of course that's just greed speaking, not fucking reality. We then find out that we're actually watching a 5D movie where you can talk to the characters on the screen.
Well, why don't you ask him?
Sir, what has happened to you?
I once thought I was righteous, and I was happy with such thoughts, but I gave in to my lusts and desires. I wanted worldly things and turned my back to God. Now I have difficulty taking pleasure in His Word.
Well, I'm afraid that masturbating to Bible verses is just going to get old after a while, buddy. That's just how it goes. Now just fuck off so I can change the channel and tell Peter Griffin that he's a paedophile prick, and tell him to eat shit and die.
I am in an iron cage of despair.
No, you're not. You're in a very big but poorly lit room, you lying sack of shit.
Lord, help me to watch and be sober, so that this man's misery never falls on me.
I do love how Christian's biggest concern here is that this poor asshole's fate doesn't befall him. He doesn't ask if he can help him or anything, it's just, wow, sucks to be him, glad I'm not that guy. Honestly, one of the things that I really dislike about this story is just how selfish everyone is. It's all about my personal connection to God and not anything else. And if you dare stop to give a shit about anyone or anything else, you're punished forever. How am I supposed to relate to this?
You are ready to continue your journey, young Christian?
Oh, I was ready 5 minutes ago when he got there. Anyway, he fucks off and leaves the interpreter to his stone box inside his big bee syrup box. Oh, that's the sky box. It's so... ugh. Yeah, that totally looks like it's there. Anyway, it's here that Christian kneels before the cross and accepts Jesus into his heart.
What does this mean?
No, wait, my mistake. This is where he learns what Jesus means. My bad. So it's here that he meets Jesus and has to ask him, you know, to confirm that it is indeed him and if he'll die and take his burden on for him.
Are you here to die for the sins of the world? You see, I have this, my burden, my sin. I cannot rid myself of it. Will you be kind enough to bear it for me and die for me as well?
Aw, you're the best, Jesus.
Well, you know, except for that time that you left me to die. Christian is then freed from his burden and meets these creepy fuckers who slide over to him on their wheels.
Ralph, Jesus did not have wheels.
And they inform him that he is now a new creation before they devour his face and his soul. So then he finds these idiots chained up to a pole and decides to annoy them because he's an ass. Gee, I wonder what these three represent.
From what I can tell, these three weren't characters in the book, or at least weren't named characters in the book.
Why do you let yourselves sleep like this? Don't you see that you are in shackles? There's a great beast that walks this road. If he finds you like this, you will surely be eaten.
I see no danger.
Let me help you.
Let me help you. Deliver your lines more convincingly.
You go first, hypocrisy.
No, formality, I insist. You go first.
Are you sure this spot is the easiest way over?
Positive. 1, 2, 3.
So these are two characters from the book who like to cut corners, so of course they are gonna be...
But you will be considered no better than thieves for entering this way.
Oh, like you have room to talk, deadbeat dad. At least all they did was hop a gate.
The hill of difficulty. Well, this won't do. It's much too steep.
So then they spot the Hill of Difficulty, which is apparently a hill in Ampthill, England? And it looks like this in real life.
Really? That's what these twits are umming and erring about? I've done hills 3 times bigger than that.
So these idiots decide to take the roads of danger and destruction because those sound a lot safer than the Hill of Difficulty.
Really? The beat you over the head symbolism in this crap really starts to get under my skin when people are so stupid that they see a road literally marked death and decide to walk it anyway. And yeah, I get, that's the point. But I don't care. That doesn't make it good.
And these two jackasses decide to go down their chosen roads and die. At least this adaptation shows them getting what they deserve. You know, for not wanting to go up a massive steep hill that they could die on. Meanwhile, Christian swims up the hillside majestically and makes it to the top. And it's truly breathtaking or something. He then finds this house, and we realise something about Christian. He's smart enough to know to leave an area when there are lions about.
I hear a mountain lion. A mountain lion? In my basement?
But in this universe, that makes him an idiot, and he gets bullied by this Tombury guy.
Stay in the middle of the path and you will not be harmed.
Thank you. What is this place?
This is a place built by God for pilgrims such as yourself. It is a house for God's family, a family that you are now a part of. They are here to give you support and to give you strength. Please, come inside.
Can I help you?
Hello. I was told that I might be able to stay here for the night, as this place was built for the relief of pilgrims such as myself.
As someone who lives here, you probably didn't know that this was this building's purpose. Nope! Ah, shit.
My name is Discretion.
Oh, I'm amazed that John Bunyan even knew where that was.
So he sits down with discretion, prudence, piety, and charity. Sound like Christian Porcelain names to me. But anyway, he explains why he left the City of Destruction behind. The characters vaguely look like animated dolls, but it's during this scene that the freakiness of that really jumps out at you. Like a Five Nights at Freddy's scare, as these women do not move unless they're given a speaking role. Like some weird mannequin or sculpture or a robot. It's just fucking weird.
And I am ashamed of that. I fear that I will never be completely free of worldly thoughts. I am just glad that those thoughts are now my shame and not my joy.
My joy now is looking ahead to the better country that has been promised to me.
Did you not have a wife? Why did you not bring her with you?
I did have a wife, but she could not let go of the world that she knew. She thought that her things brought her happiness.
Did you try your best to persuade her to go with you? Did you perhaps give her a reason to think poorly of your cause?
No, I was very careful to be loving in everything I said. In fact, what frustrated her was how careful I was not to sin, and how I felt that we should love others, even our enemies.
Since when has loving others been part of anyone's itinerary here? You jackasses have only shown interest in loving yourselves. Fuck!
The next morning, Christian awakes with one eye open before opening both of them, 'cause that's normal. And then he sees the delightful mountains. Anyway, fuck that noise, as fuckface McTomberry gives him the armour of God.
The armour of God? Why does that sound familiar?
As Bible Man.
Does that mean that he's the original Bible Man? Holy shit!
The Bible Man's coming, so you better stick around. A brand new episode is coming to your town. A whole lot of fun with the greatest book of all. Yeah, the Bible Man's coming and it's gonna be a ball.
Go get everyone you know,
'Cause it's just about time for the Bible Man Show.
It's the Bible, it's the Bible, it's the Bible Man Show. We're learning how to live and we're learning how to grow.
It's storytelling, picture painting, grooving, don't you know?
Everybody get ready for the Bible Man Show.
Hello? Who is there?
Don't be frightened. You are from the City of Destruction, are you not?
At this point, he finally takes on Apollyon, the everything who lords over Christian's homeland in the Valley of Humiliation.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait for the game to see the dominatrixes in the Valley of Domination. I'm sorry.
I am the Lord and King of the land that you come from, and you are one of my servants. My name is Apollyon.
This guy is apparently the Angel Abaddon, who is the King of Locusts in the New Testament, and the Angel of the Abyss in the Old Testament. And now he's basically the Bible's equivalent of Mehrunes Dagon.
Guess that means I gotta take that Elder Scrolls reference back now. Well, I won't. Suck on that!
In most religions, he's depicted as a demon of despair of some kind, but the Methodists still think he's cool. But anyway, fuck all that, because this shit turns into Christian Dark Souls, as Christian Clemens throws himself into the fray and fights the demon head on.
It is true that I was born into slavery to you, but I grew up. I want to mend myself.
Wait, hold the shit, he was born into slavery? What kind of slaver lets you sit around all day doing nothing, and then lets you leave whenever you feel like it? Oh, careful guys at Paradise Falls, you should take notes.
You leave. Come back with me, and I will grant you as many riches as the world can afford.
Oh no, a horrible master! Offering you riches to come back and be a slave.
Oh, come now, people do it all the time.
Oh well, if people do it all the time, then I guess I've got to do it.
Haha, gets done every time.
I'm an enemy to this god. I hate him and his people.
Oh, too subtle. Can't take it. Oh.
Be careful what you do, Apollyon. This is the Lord's highway.
Don't you know that the followers of your god meet horrible ends, usually by my hands?
It is the path that I choose. And no matter what happens to me now, I will be alive in God's kingdom long after you and this world have been forgotten.
Well then, concerning what happens to you now, let's make the most of it, shall we?
to admit, I did quite like the fight scenes in this. I thought that they were not brilliantly animated, but it's quite clear that there was a lot of effort put into making it as good as possible. And it actually kind of reminded me of several video games I've played over the years.
Though it is kind of stupid how he loses this giant monster and has no idea where he is. I mean, he'd be able to hear or smell him or something that close. Oh man, you've gone and done pissed Christian off. No, wait, no, he's just a wimp who's gotten the wind kicked out of him from being hit against a wall. What a pussy.
Cut off my arm, I will grow another. Chop off my tail, I will grow 3 more. You are outmatched, and you will fall.
Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise.
Then take your best shot at me. After that, I will show you how wrong you are. You will never rise again, not in this world or the world to come.
Fatality.
So, if he could be killed that easily, why did he let him take a shot? Really, I know it would be like a massive stroke of luck for someone to think to shoot the skeleton on top, but why would you risk it unless you were a fucking idiot? Oh wait, everyone's a fucking idiot in this story. Carry on.
Thank you, O Lord, for delivering me.
Run! Turn back while you can, it's horrible! Snares and evil spirits, horrible sounds of suffering! No one could survive it, turn back!
Oh, come on, guys, the movie isn't that bad.
Anywho, Christian awakes to a load of yelling as everyone runs in terror and has to look at what the commotion's about. I'd personally just go back to bed as it's clearly just the people who played Fallout 76's beta fleeing for their lives. Nah, I'm just kidding, it's nothing as bad as that, it's just the valley of death they're running from.
Oh, the shadow of the valley of belching and vomiting.
No, you don't even know. You don't even know what you are doing. Where are you going? God.
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it!
Two creatures that don't feature in the shadow of the Valley of Death are Pope and Pagan. These two are actually representative of pagan worship and the Pope of the Catholic Church. I'm guessing it doesn't really hold as much relevancy now as paganism died out centuries ago and the Catholic Church is no longer the threat that it once was.
I do mention it as it amuses me to no end how some religions depict the Pope. The World Mission Society of God, for example, depicts him as the little horn in the Book of Daniel, who is often seen as the Antichrist in most other religious interpretations of the Book of Daniel. To them, the Pope and the Antichrist are literally one and the same.
In the 1400s, for example, the Pope was like the equivalent of a really big mob boss, whereas now he's pretty much a figurehead for a religion, so yeah, I don't really think many people would get his cameo in this little story. I really like this shot because you can see how Christian has been affected by his experience in the valley. You can quite clearly tell that the phantoms have got to him, and while he may leave them, they will never leave him. I guess it goes to show just how—
Oh, fuck that noise, he spotted a chick.
Walk with you?
I cannot wait for you, but I will gladly walk with you if you catch up.
Why can't she wait for him? I mean, it's not time sensitive, this quest. Oh, but Gio, it's allegory for that. I don't care, okay? That doesn't make her not a bitch. In this context, Faithful is a bitch who can't wait for anyone because she's an impatient cow.
Huh. What? Help!
Okay, I will give him that. The Christian-looking annoyed face does make this scene fantastic.
My name is Christian.
Hi, my name is Faithful. Are you also going to the Celestial City?
Yes, I am. And it will be good to have some company on the way there.
Well, then you're in luck. Here's another fellow.
Oh, hello, hello! Mind if I walk with you? I'm a good companion to walk with, as I enjoy talking about things that are good and righteous.
Well, how wonderful.
Oh no, help. My eyes have been possessed by a demon. Sorry, can't stop. Gotta go fast. I'm burning. Can't stop.
You see, her wonky eyes are allegory for her being a bitch.
Anyhow, if there's one thing that I find funnier than her stupid eyes, it's Christian's stupid face. In fact, this is my favourite frame in the movie right here.
Well, it is a most wonderful thing to talk about religion and the Bible and God. It is very meaningful to talk about those things.
Well, it is very good to talk about the way those things are meaningful in our lives.
Well, that's what I said. It's meaningful to talk about those things.
What a wonderful traveling companion we have found.
Don't be fooled by him. His name is Talkative. I know him better than he knows himself.
How? Have you met before?
Oh, what am I saying? He's probably read a dictionary at some point in his life and knows what's coming up.
His religion is in his mouth, not in his heart. Ask him how the grace of God has changed his life.
So these two decided to show this poor guy up and make him look like an ass. Such lovely people.
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot what people were for a second there.
So next they go to the Vanity Fair, where they're offered all kinds of shit, from stuff to popularity. These two jackasses, however, get bothered when they aren't buying anything. You know, even if they just don't want to buy what's on offer, or are just literally passing through without wanting to buy anything at all. Are you telling me that nobody ever just walks through this area without buying things? What if they don't have money to buy anything? What if they don't have any interest in what's on display here? Surely a better businessman will be like, oh, maybe I should get some new inventory, but no. Then this bald bastard gets pissed about it and has them both arrested for daring not to buy his crap.
It's interesting to note that this adaptation cut out a part of Faithful's storyline.
In the book, and oddly enough the video game adaptation of this very movie, Faithful is a man. In truth, I do think changing Faith's gender works a bit better, as there was nothing remarkable about Faith's character in the game, whereas in the movie she stands out a lot better. Her young blonde girl with a flower in her hair look makes her look a bit more pure, whereas her male counterpart in the game looks exactly the same as everyone else.
So, originally in the book she was a man, and Adam the First actually tries to tempt Faithful with promise of his daughters, and they stay overnight with Adam the First as his daughters try and seduce Faithful, and Moses actually goes out of his way to try and punish Faithful for this. I'm guessing they cut this because it adds very little to the overall story, and, well, Faithful's a woman now, so I guess changing them to sons wouldn't make sense.
So the two of them are presented to Lord Hategood. Just no.
You know, I never thought I'd find a judge worse than the one from Dingo Pictures' Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I actually really want that horrible voice back again.
So they did a sensible thing and banish them, right? Nopers! Instead, they keep them prisoner, keeping their dangerous ideas in the town even longer, and then have them executed.
Yes, it's true. 2 people came through yesterday and didn't buy a thing. They were offered titles, glory, wealth, houses, properties, crowns, jewels, and all sorts of things. They walked by as though none of those things mattered. Other people took notice of that and began to question the value of those things as well. The whole fair was in an uproar.
See, even Christian thinks this is fucking stupid.
So, they put them in the dungeon? But why? Did they do something wrong? They disrupted the peace and upset the fair. How? All they did was pass through. They didn't say an unkind word to anybody. That's not the point. Their misguided beliefs are dangerous. But how? If people want to leave the fair and follow them, then they should be able to. Who are you to— Beelzebub will not tolerate this kind of talk.
What kind of gossipers are these?
Oh, but Gio, don't you know? They're allegory for...
Anyway, they decide to shout out their entire thinking process in front of the prisoners and come to the conclusion that the best thing that they could do in this situation is burn Faithful alive.
Faithful. Faithful. Wait. No, no. Faithful. Wait, no. No, wait. No.
Anyway, Christian manages to break free, because these shackles suck or something. Allegory, I don't know. He gets out just in time to see her crispy remains.
You know, I do keep thinking, imagine if this was the other way around.
Ah! Faithful! Help! I'm burning! Sorry, can't stop. Ah, my eyes! They're melting! My eyes are melting! And then Faithful flies away with Jesus into the clouds.
So wait a minute, if you die you get an express ticket to the afterlife? Jeez, no wonder Christians have such a hate boner against suicide.
So this jackass, Hopeful, turns up and he's basically Faithful too. Though I think he's Indian or something, so maybe that counts for something.
Well, hello. I'm on my way to the Celestial City. Sorry, I can tell you would rather be left in peace. I have come from Vanity Fair.
Oh, I see, you're miserable. Well, it would take a real jackass to keep talking to you like a... Oh, by the way, my favourite metal band is Nickelback. What's yours?
You know, Scott's weakness is introducing characters, because you find yourself really disliking a lot of them based on their first impression in the story. In the game, he is at least less of an ass and gives Christian a chance to explain what happened and why he's so sad. But in this adaptation, he comes across as an insensitive jerk.
Which really makes him stand out from the other characters, I guess.
I can tell you would rather be left in peace. I have come from Vanity Fair. You came from there as well, did you not? Okay, well, I'll leave you alone then. My name is Hopeful, by the way.
Oh my god, he does this twice! Christian, just run your fucking sword through him and be done. He even shows that he's aware that Christian is in mourning, and yes, he does eventually prove a little bit helpful, but it took him so long to realise that I don't care. Just tell him to fuck off, please. So anyway, these jackasses get themselves lost and wind up on the wrong path, because diverting from the main path worked so well for those other two jackasses, so it's gotta work for them, right? Oh, wait, no, they get kidnapped by this goblin arsehole. He looks quite different in the game, admittedly. So this guy is the giant despair who owns the Doubting Castle.
Who's the brand new evil in your town?
Shadow of doubt.
Who's the baddest bad guy all around?
Shadow of doubt.
Who's got the plan to take you down?
Shadow of doubt.
Who's both the verb and the noun?
Shadow of doubt.
So we learn that this guy is actually a sort of jailer demon who forces his doubts onto Christians. He basically is Shadow of Doubt, and I think he is actually meant to be the allegorical side of this story that represents a Christian's urge to commit suicide and give up on faith. As in the game, a lot of people who are suffered at the hands of this guy do end up going down that path.
The days are blistering hot and the nights are painfully cold. You will feel the effects of this place more and more as each day goes by without food or water. See you in a few days.
Christian, don't worry. We will get out of here, I'm sure of it. The Lord will provide a way.
It seems as well this adaptation cuts out the Silvermine side plot, where a character actually eggs both Christian and Hopeful on to try and dig into a silver mine to become rich. I can see why this was cut for two reasons. The first being that we're in the last 10 minutes of the movie now, and B, how would they fall for this after the Armour of God stage? This seems more like a plotline suited for Christian way before that, back when he had his burden on his back, and could have been told, hey, well, you don't have to go on this journey, you could just be super rich instead. Regardless, I'm really glad they cut it out. Interestingly enough, you can completely just avoid and walk past it in the video game, which I can't help but find funny.
Another character who doesn't feature in this adaptation is the giantess Diffidence, who is Despair's wife, though she plays a much bigger part in the second story of the Pilgrim's Progress.
Yeah, there are two parts to this story, but this movie really only covers the first part, mainly because I think the second part is just kind of a rehash of the first, starring a different character. From what I can tell, Scott never actually took up the mantle of making the second part.
And he resides himself to death needlessly almost right away. Actually, he tries to do that, but then a shock here reminds him that he can just pull a key out of his ass, and so he does so, and escapes.
There, I saved you about 5 minutes by telling you that.
Then they kill the giant, who wasn't supposed to die until the second part, and they make it to the Celestial City. Yay! Oh wait, actually no, they're at the bit before where they get to live out their days before passing over to the River of Death, and then they get to the Celestial City. Sorry to get your hopes up. However, there they encounter the evil atheist who has come along with his
differing beliefs.
Here's something that's done really subtle and well. The atheist character. He's not a fucking caricature, at least.
Again, this thing being about as subtle as a clown with his cock out really does bite it in the arse, because this guy says...
Direction. Oh, really? My name is Atheist. I once thought like you. I searched for the Celestial City as well, and let me assure you, no such place exists on this earth.
You must look beyond what you can see. The kingdom of heaven lies in the next world.
You know, I met a man named Ignorance on my journey. He had a very interesting point about your religion. He said that it's silly to think that faith in Christ will get you to heaven, because one could simply say that they believe, continue to live a wicked lifestyle, and still get into heaven.
Really? You meet a guy called Ignorance, and you think, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. Fucking idiot.
In the book, ignorance actually is encountered, and he's also encountered in the video game. He tries to get into the Celestial City, but he decides to do the smart thing and take the ferry over the River of Death, and thus burns in hell forever.
Oh, but please, keep telling me how bad atheist is.
Real works on its own. A real faith heals a wicked lifestyle, and that will shine through in a true believer. Besides, God can see into the hearts of people. Do you think that God can be tricked? Someone may live their entire life acting out a religion through works of routine and ritual, then be turned away at the gates of heaven. God knows who his children are.
Fools.
You know, I find it kind of funny because if anybody watched my religious video I did about 2 years ago now, you'll know that I actually became an atheist. Not because of people like the atheist character in this movie, but because of characters like Christian and Faithful and Hopeful. Believe it or not, those jagoffs are actually the kind of people that put me off religion completely. In fact, everything that happens to Christian in this movie, I feel is my experience with religion, but just reversed. So that I got a load of shit for not buying into somebody else's crap.
I mean, when you think of someone burning someone else at the stake, for example, because of what they believe, where does that make you cast your mind to? Oh yeah, witch trials. Who did those? And also, when you look down on someone for their beliefs, who again does that make you think of? The jackasses in this movie.
Seriously, this story shit morals can kiss my arse.
Alright, fuck this, let's wrap this up. So the last thing they gotta do is cross this river that we saw in the opening.
Oh gee, I wonder if they make it. We don't need to see this, Skip.
So Christian makes it to the Celestial City, reunites with Faithful, and whatever these monsters are, and they all live happily ever after, or something, until Jesus does a killing joke and possibly strangles him to death. The end. Actually, it ends with the opening of the second part, where Christiana gets his suicide note and is convinced by it to go on a journey with her friends and family to follow her nutjob husband into the afterlife.
So this was a pretty fun film.
Yeah, I do have my problems with the source material, but this actual animation is pretty faithful in its adaptation, and it's brief enough that it doesn't get old. It kind of reminds me of M. Dickey's stuff in a lot of ways. It's not great, but you can tell that the hearts of the creators are in it, and I can't really fault them for that. Yeah, the animation isn't perfect by any means, and despite what I said at the beginning whilst editing over it, I have noticed a couple more mistakes, but it's still nowhere near the magnitude of horrors that I've seen elsewhere. While I don't think this movie adaptation is as good as the video game adaptation, well, I still think that it's a decent effort. At least you can join me now for the video game adaptation, which is, it's a whole different bag.
Of course, as well, we actually got to see what the guy who made Five Nights at Freddy's imagines when he sees biblical beasts, and I actually think that's a pretty cool selling point for this movie. But you haven't seen anything yet, as the game goes a lot deeper into this aspect, so join me next time when we actually look at that instead. It's a bit more fun.
this episode of Curiosity's Sake actually ties into my review of the movie of this very video game, making this my first double feature. That's kinda sad. Anyway, I would like to hash out a few things before I get started. The first being that I was somewhat unsure as to whether or not the video game came before the movie. However, now I know that it was the other way around, that the movie was made 6 years before the video game. So yeah, sorry if I unwittingly misled anyone with my last video. I'm pretty sure I got it wrong several times, but it did get confusing due to me looking up both adaptations for a while. The other thing that I wanted to say is that due to the stories of this game and the movie being somewhat identical, I've opted to not really talk about the story of this game, since I pretty much covered it in the movie review. I'll only bring it up if there's any differences in this adaptation, but this is practically word for word the same story. I actually first discovered this game and the movie on Jim Sterling's Greenlight trailer series, where he watched the trailer for this game way back in 2014 and didn't seem all that impressed with it.
The Pilgrim's Progress. Ironically, a game that looks upon which very little progress has been made.
Admittedly, the trailer doesn't do this game many favours. In fact, it makes it look really bad because of the choppy frame rate, and even after playing this game, I look back on this trailer, and my impression of it is this game looks a complete mess. Jim also commented on this thing being incomplete, though it actually is quite solid as a gaming experience, and I never encountered anything buggy or broken during my playthrough, except for a minor checkpoint issue. Basically, at the final boss, they gave you a checkpoint in front of the boss to give you an advantage. However, I decided to leave the area to try and turn in some quests and get more XP, and when I re-entered the area afterwards, it reset the checkpoint to the start of the level instead of the end, which meant that I had to now defeat 3 generic enemies before the final boss, and if I died, I didn't get the buffs that you get on your first fight after dying, which would have helped a lot in the final battle, but now I can no longer get them because I'm an idiot. The game is very similar in style and tone to the movie, albeit improved, with the textures and the shadows being considerably better in this. The creature designs are also significantly better, but I feel like this is more attributed to the generic enemies. I feel like boss enemies that featured in the movie often took a step back as far as grandeur went, like Apollyon for example just being this big goblin fuck instead of this thing. There are some pretty cool designs for the enemies on display, like these muck monsters, these steampunk elephants, and a dozen of other creature designs that I found myself rather impressed with. I can't really think of a battle or a creature that I felt was underwhelming in its design. I also quite like the detail of the environments as well. They're a lot more bright and colourful than their movie counterparts and have a lot more thought put into them. You actually get to explore them in the video game adaptation, in some capacity, and the backgrounds themselves are actually quite eye-catching, as you can see in the backgrounds of these cutscenes. I also appreciate that they take full advantage of this by having certain elements and clues placed around the levels. Like, for example, there's a statue of Apollyon here at the beginning of the first level in the city, establishing his place in the world and also giving him some foreshadowing for his fight later on. I also expected the cutscenes to be MP4s of the movie, but they were actually stills with the whole story retold. As I said before, it's mostly the same, with a few minor variations. And one of those variations is Faith being a man, though the Adam the First plot is still cut from the game, and his dialogue is mostly the same. Hope on the other hand remains identical to his movie counterpart, as does Christian. This game also features a few mentioned only characters in the movie, like Ignorance, though again they kind of leave out the whole him getting murdered for taking a ferry thing. A lot of characters have also had redesigns, but mostly they've remained the same at their core. Visually, I like the way that this game looks. It's quite stylized and unique. Everything has a lot of frames of animation with the intention of making it as fluid as possible, and I do appreciate that effort even if it does look a bit uncanny at times. The textures are pretty basic but nice to look at, and every environment achieves the effect that it initially wanted to give off. The soundtrack also gives aid to this, whether it's the bleak background tracks or the rockin' battle theme. I did like the battle theme at first, but given that it's the only one in the game, it loses its charm after a while, especially given that it restarts every time you fight an enemy. And sometimes you can fight 3 enemies in a row and it restarts every goddamn time. Some variation will be nice, at least for bosses, though I prefer it if every area's enemies got a different theme to break up the monotony. Persona 5 had a similar problem, but this game at least was smart enough not to include a song with lyrics in it, because that made it even more annoying. Although Persona 5 did have some variation in battle themes for some bosses, whereas this game does not have such a thing. Whilst I've been mostly positive up until now, it's far from perfect as a game. The biggest problem that I had was this game suffers from Getaway Black Monday syndrome. Like that game, it has no tutorialization whatsoever, and gives you a load of mechanics and such, expecting you to just deal with it. So you're given quests, but not told how to activate them, or deal with them in any way, and you just have to figure it out on your own. Every quest that isn't combat related involves you pressing the up key when approaching an NPC. The 2 most common quests are giving gold to poor people, or Bibles to cheapskates who don't want to buy one themselves. My favourite quest is in the Dungeon of Despair, where you have to talk 30 people out of suicide, mostly because you can't go over the limit of 30. So if you reach a situation where you meet suicidal number 31, then you can't help him because you've reached your quota as to how many suicidals you can help, so you just sort of have to shuffle past him and not make eye contact. How, Christian of you. The quests aren't the hardest thing to figure out. The real problem is during the combat. The combat in this game has a really interesting take on it, playing into the whole allegory thing. Every enemy is a form of problem that a Christian would have to face during the course of their life, and you would use the tools given to you by God in order to fix it. I really like this as an idea, and it plays out pretty well for the most part. It's a proper RPG with stats, powers, buffs, debuffs and everything else. I find it quite clever and intuitive, given that the player has everything that they need to beat the game from the start, and chooses as to which of the tools that they're given to improve upon and master. The issue really is that you can't really afford to neglect anything in this game, so I kind of ended up just adding 1 to every score point, you know, like you're not supposed to do in RPGs. It's not like you can have a rogue build though, in a turn-based combat game in which your ability to inflict and resist damage are instantly brought down to 0 by a debuff, and if you don't have any resistance to said debuffs, the debuffs destroy you in seconds. You need at least a steady amount of progress in all fields, or you're kind of fucked very early on. None of this is explained beyond a simple line of text that tells you what everything is, and even then it doesn't exactly tell you how it works. For example, I didn't realise that the 5 resistances all had different effects depending on the enemy that you're fighting. Faith, truth, promise and grace are circumstantial, while power slaps the enemy down and destroys their buffs. I didn't know this and just kept using power for a while, worried about fucking up my turn by using one of the others. This made it kind of difficult further in, when I encountered an enemy that required one of 4 other attacks in order to do some real damage. Creatures are weak to different kinds of attacks, you see, and your guess is as good as mine as to what those attacks might be. Sometimes I had to guess 4 times to find the right one, because the one that seemed the most obvious did fuck all. It would have been good to have something like the Pokédex to tell you what their weaknesses were, but sadly the best thing that you have in your arsenal is trial and error. Another thing that kind of baffled me is that there are 5 healing spells, and none of them are restore health. Instead, you actually have to pray for spirit. Okay. Not to mention that most of these things are redundant, as you can just use the blessings that can give you major boosts in power, mana, defense, and speed. And you can even drain an enemy's health. So, if you have this option, then it seems like a waste of a turn giving yourself a 10% strength boost when you can go for a 100% boost instead. Not to mention that unlike what this dumb asshole with the popcorn said, patience is hardly rewarded in the later battles, as they do this annoying debuff attack that stops you from attacking or defending yourself, and you lose the 50% power boost that you've been painstakingly working for the past 5 turns. Even if you do use the blessing that resists this, it will eventually run out and you're fucked again. It was at the boss battle of the Giant Despair that I was getting more than a little annoyed, as I had to do the same bit over and over again. Granted, I got to level myself up by doing this, but that didn't make it not a shitty thing to have to do for well over an hour. It's like purgatory. Then the final boss comes along and holy fuck, this thing's awful. I think I've dedicated around 2 to 3 hours trying to build myself up to beat this thing, and I actually gave up in the end due to it getting so boring and frustrating. So yeah, I technically didn't finish this thing, but I know the ending anyway as I watched the movie. It's somewhat rare that I don't see a game through to its end, you know, unless it's horrifically incompetent like Unknown City or boring as fuck like Poirot, but I could honestly make a whole video from start to finish in the amount of time it would take me to finish this one boss fight. And I'd much rather do that at this point than suffer from fucking sensory deprivation. I actually enjoyed this game for the most part, quite a bit actually. For all its flaws, you can tell that it was a passion project that offers something truly unique, and I can't help but respect that. Personally, I think this game deserves a place on Steam if it wants it, but I'd honestly say that it's too good for Steam at this point. It should probably look for a store with higher standards. Okay. Oops, I gave all my coins away.
The Bible Man's coming, so you better stick around. A brand new episode is coming to your town. A whole lot of fun with the greatest book of all. Yeah, the Bible Man's coming and it's gonna be a ball.
Go get everyone you know,
'Cause it's just about time for the Bible Man Show.
It's the Bible, it's the Bible, it's the Bible Man Show. We're learning how to live and we're learning how to grow.
It's storytelling, picture painting, grooving, don't you know?
Everybody get ready for the Bible Man Show.
Don't worry, I know right where I'm going. This way, this...
Well, I know at least one of you wanted to know what the hell this thing does, so I put some batteries in it, I had to go through all of those in order to, like, figure out which ones were right, but I eventually did it. So, here we go. Yeah, I'm sure that was worth the suspense. Could have done that like 2 episodes ago. Dickhead.
Welche neugierige Babbrüchen.